on children. Hundreds of studies and countless congressional hearings have looked at the issue of media violence and always seem to end up at the same place.
Does anyone disagree with that conclusion, that your violence in films propagates violent conduct on behalf of the children?
But for all the endless debate, a basic question remains. Is the issue really about whether we imitate what we see? And if that's the case, why do the vast majority of us watch TV and never commit a violent act?
We have become so accustomed to our cultural environment. It's like fishing that doesn't know that it's swimming in water because it has never experienced anything else.
The late communications scholar George Gerbner spent the better part of 4 decades trying to understand media violence as part of the larger complex of stories we tell ourselves as a culture. And what he found was as remarkable as it was simple. Not that consuming media violence is likely to make us violent, but that it's likely to make us more scared of violence being done to us.
The conception that if there's so much violence in the world, I'm at risk. Not that I'm going to go down the street to be a mugger, but on the contrary, I'm afraid to go down the street at night.
You always have to look over your...
Asking you to leave the violent video games in the stores. Have you ever went to Walmart or GameStop and you hear the young teenage boys talking about the new Call of Duty game that just came out? I ask you this because I have another question. Should teenagers be allowed to buy these violent, aggressive video games? In my opinion, no, they shouldn't. These violent video games has become a part of their everyday lives. I'm going to enlighten you on 3 points connecting teenage aggression and these violent video games. First, I'm going to talk about media violence today, the effect media violence has on our teenagers, and what messages are the advertisers sending to its audience. Now, when you think of media violence, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Me, when I think of media violence, I think of the violent and nasty, aggressive images that we retrieve in our mind and that some play out every day. Media violence is what George Gerbner says. It's not likely that media violence is to make us violent, but it is to likely make us scared of the violence that's being done to us. What he's saying is, by these teenagers playing these violent video games, it's not likely that they'll go and do it, but it's likely that we'll be afraid of what might happen to us. In 1956, George Gerbner did a study comparing 12 4-year-olds who watched a Woody Woodpecker episode to 12 4-year-olds who watched a Little Red Hen episode. Now you can only imagine that the 12 4-year-old students who watched the Woody Woodpecker episodes were more aggressive during playtime, broke toys, and had these mean and nasty moves. Now, as teenagers, we all have to go through puberty. And when puberty hits, we are easily influenced to do almost anything, from our peers to TV idols to any media that we retrieve. The effects that media violence has on teenagers are: it increases the aggressive moods or thoughts, hostility after playing these violent video games, and the impairment of pro-social behavior, which means after countless hours of playing these aggressive video games, after you press stop or you press reset, those images do not erase from your mind. I know that we all seen images or on the news how some of these teenage boys are going around and portraying the same images that they're playing in these video games. I know that I've seen on the news the boy who went and shot up the elementary school. Now, after doing research, it showed that he had been playing violent video games all his life. We can't get a hold or let loose of the violent video games because the advertisers who promote these violent video games are doing a great job. These advertisers are out to get your money. They know exactly what to do. They know exactly what to say to get you and your children to go and purchase these games. While doing research, I came across a program called the IGA, short for In-Gaming Advertising. What this program does is offer an attractive opportunity for advertisers to reach an elusive consumer segment if images is managed effectively. This means that there is a program set up for these advertisers to get you just in the right predicament to go and buy that violent video game. In conclusion, I've shared with you about media violence today, the effect media violence has on these teenagers, and what images are the advertisers sending to its audience. Now it's up to us to leave the violent video games in the stores. There are more productive, educational video games that's out there for our teenagers and young children. By leaving the violent video games in the stores, we are telling these advertisers and these promoters that we can do better than this. We can make a change and stop media violence.